So I just got done doing a whole bunch of sanding on this prop. And one of the really critical things when you're building props, and if you've done any building, crafting, anything, you know what I'm talking about, and that's the sanding of it. And I was going to go over some cool sanding tips here. And if you are building something, it's really, really critical to get a good sand on it to finish it up. Unless you just want it to look like rough stuff, then it doesn't need to be sanded. But almost everything needs to have some sanding on it. So there is, starting off on one end, I'm going to go from just hand stuff up to power tools. Sanding paper comes in a whole variety of different grits, and that's what you're going to be using. And it comes all over the places, anywhere from an 80 grit or even more than that, up to a 1500 grit. And the grit is how rough it is. So if it's an 80 grit, then it's like really super rough. It's 1500, it's like super smooth. And you can use a whole variety. You're going to want to start with a rough to rough it out, and then you're going to move up further and further to smoother stuff. And I was going to show you, I've got this cool little accordion thing, is where we keep all of our sandpaper at. And you're wondering, how do you keep track of sandpaper? Because like if you have a whole bunch of it, I bite this accordion file, and it goes from, on one end I have a 40 grit in here, all the way up to, at the other end, it goes up to 2000. And the 2000 is, it's like a wet, dry sandpaper. It feels like a piece of paper, but it is sandpaper, 2000 grit. And that way we can keep track of all the sandpaper. You get various ones, you stick them in there, and then you know right where they're at. Good way to keep track of it. Some fun little tips on sanding is I use these sticks a lot. These are basically what they are stirring sticks for paint, and I glue on sandpaper of various grit on here, and then I can just easily sand it down what I need to. If you need, so these are paint stirring sticks, and like this one is a 220, and I have one here that is 400, and I just keep them real handy, so I can just pull them up and sand the stuff. If you need to get into smaller areas, you just get a smaller stick and put it on. So I have a tongue depressor that has 400 on one side, 220 on the other. I've got a little large popsicle stick here to be able to do that. You can, even if you want to, go down to just a little tiny one. They're inexpensive, easy way just to keep sandpaper handy rather than like hold it in your hand and doing it. If you do have like curved areas that need to be sanded, a piece of foam will work really nice. You get the piece of sandpaper and wrap it around it, and it becomes a little bit more pliable. And so you can squish it, make it rounded, get into round spots with it. That's a really good trick too, is when you're sanding it, rather than just trying to do it with your hand. You can do it with your hand. Tools are nice though. The other thing that you can do, there are these little, what are called needle or sanders. They're physical metal pieces, and they're really nice for getting to really small spots. You can pick them up like at Harbor Freight. Later on in the stream today, we're going to be giving away one of these, and these are really, really nice. Because they're really, really tiny. And you can get into really, really small little spots with these guys, and they're all different sizes and shapes. There's round ones and pointed ones and flat ones and triangular ones. These can come in really handy for a variety of reasons. Again, later on in my stream, we're going to be giving this away. Once you start moving up into the power tools, the Dremel, of course, is a great way to start roughing out stuff. And usually you're going to use some kind of a sanding drum on it. And these can come in a variety of shapes and smoothness on it. You can also use stone bits in here that are a variety of shapes, and that's where they get even smoother than these drum ones. Drum ones usually take off a lot of foam. The ceramic ones are a lot smooth. They get down really, really smooth on it. And so Dremel can, it's you have to learn how to use it because there's some finesse to it. But the Dremel can be a really, really handy tool to be able to use. Another tool, crazy enough, I use this guy a ton. This is a 1/2 inch belt sander, hand sander, and you can just get into you can finesse this guy so well, and I get things so smooth, and I can, because it's only 1/2 inch wide, I mean, you can get into some crazy shapes and sanding spots and whatnot. You have to be careful because it will cut through foam really, really fast. But if you are gentle with it, it can do a really good job. So I highly recommend this one. This is like one of my favorite sanding tools to use. And I also use this Orbital multi-tool. It's electric multi-tool, and it comes in a variety of different shapes that you can put on here. It's kind of like sort of like an orbital sander, just vibrates. And this is also a really nice tool. And the small tip on there can get into little places, and you can pick up a whole, packs of different variety of smoothness, different grits on it to be able to put it on there to be able to sand with. There's also larger power tools like a belt sander when you're doing major renovations on a piece of foam. Belt sanders can be really nice, but sanding is really important. These are just some basic tools. Remember, it's going to take time. It's going to just take time to be able to sand things down to get to that finesse and that smoothness that you want. Put a movie on, sit down, sand, whatever it takes. But it's really super important. Just like having sharp blades in your knife is really important, having the right tools to be able to sand your foam down is really, really important as well. And I can't express that enough. There's one of my really good friends, Eric Jones, has his t-shirts, "I sand, I die, I sand again." He's like the king of sanding. He sands all the time for everything. I am not as much into sanding as he is. I will sand it till it looks good at 10 feet, and then I'm done. But you can sand however much you want to be able to get it down with it. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you just to get started. Again, if you're getting into this and you're really not sure, that's what we're trying to give you, some basic tools of how to start getting into this whole craft of cosplay and building and crafting. So there you go. All right, we'll see you next time. Be creative, be amazing, and I'll catch you again